Hey, Travis, thanks for being here. I'm really enjoying the opportunity to have a chat with you today. So I want to talk a little bit about email marketing because I think it's a concept that's not really well known, or a lot of people are not aware of it because it feels like they are constantly relying on social media platforms. And if you're anything like me, who got hacked like 12 months ago and I lost about 17,000 followers, all my email database, my entire social media platform, including LinkedIn and YouTube's and TikTok, everything disappeared. It got me to think about things a little bit differently. I don't own the platform of social media. It's actually borrowed, if we all know about that. So I really focused on growing my email database. And of course, as you know, I use Campaign Refinery, and I want to talk a little bit today about the importance about email marketing. So thanks for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm a huge email nerd, so anytime I can talk about email, I'll take the opportunity.
That sounds cool. So I actually got a workshop coming up next week. I think it's on the 26th of March. This is Wednesday, Sydney time, 9 a.m. And it's called a 10-minute email. And I'm going to show and demonstrate about how email actually works for me. So I do about 2 workshops a month. And usually I do the workshop for my clients, meaning they're paying clients that are inside my community and my mentorship. And I then sell 2 workshop a month for daily ticket holders. People can come in and see what we actually do. So this one is really about emails because, a bit like yourself, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to emails. I don't really like going out live and doing reels and the TikToks and the stories and all that sort of stuff live on camera. It just feels a little bit unnatural for me to kind of stick my phone in front of my face and do that sort of stuff. So it doesn't come naturally. So for me, I'm more of a writer. So I love writing an email a day, and that email then is repurposed to, let's say, content, whether you want to use it for threads or Instagram or Facebook. It's really irrelevant. So what I tend to do, I write an email and then I just cut and paste and post that all across my social media platforms because I don't really know where my audience gathers, and they could be everywhere. And some people, as you know, they love Facebook, but they might not like, threads. So it's really a matter of finding the people in the right places. So this workshop is really going to highlight how you can just start a simple newsletter and then get people to opt in, let's say, to a small lead magnet. And then from that lead magnet, there's a series of emails that get triggered. Usually it's about 8 of 10, where we are actually introducing something else beside the lead magnet. And usually will be like an evergreen workshop. And from there, when they purchase the workshop, we funnel them into one of my communities. So we got different kind of communities inside school, different levels, different tiers. And this is now completely evergreen. Like I literally don't even have to be there because it's a workshop that's already been recorded. So that's one thing I'll be showing. I'll be showing obviously how to use content, how to get people attracted to the right content. We often talk about, you hear people saying, I just attract people on a broken bus, or, I just attract freebie seekers. It's because probably the content has been created for those people. So really the difference about how to create content for people on a private jet, so to speak, which are usually people that have invested into something, they just want that problem sorted and fixed. So we'll cover those different kind of content, different kind of emails. I'm even going to go and give them 90 days of content where they can just cut and paste. I just feel a lot of people have really struggled with writing content and they feel like they have to make things up. But the best content really, it's something that's really happening to you, like in real life, a real example. And some of my best emails are in the past tense, things that have happened to me in the past. So I'm going to show them exactly how I write the 90 days of content, and they can just literally just swipe and use it for themselves. So that just a little bit about this workshop next week.
Cool. So where do you want to start with email then?
I guess tell us a little bit about, the beauty about Campaign Refinery, perhaps some kind of a difference between Campaign Refinery and some of the other software that we come across with. Like, it's not about seeing I'm better or, I'm doing this that other people are not doing. I really kind of want to learn a little bit about the basics of Campaign Refinery and what are the benefits to join. Because personally, me, when I'm using it now, I find the data very precise. Like, sometimes when you're reading your email marketing campaigns and it doesn't make any sense, you go, how is this even possible? Like, I used to be 25 click, now it's 5%. It's I've dropped from 25 to 5. And that sort of stuff are just some simple advice for people that perhaps are considering to use email marketing and how they can benefit from it.
Sure. Well, if it's okay with you, I want to give just a little bit of background about how we got here because no one in their right mind should go build an email platform. And so understanding what motivated us to go through hell and back to make something like this
Yeah.
would give people a better understanding as to why we thought it needed to exist. So if that's okay with you, I'd like to just
Yeah,
kind of give that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we had a previous software that was a contest platform, which had over 20,000 customers, generated over 30 million opt-ins. And between that experience and running email ourselves and going through the normal evolution that a lot of people did at the time, which was we started with an Aweber list, and then we kind of outgrew that concept of lists, and we needed more sophisticated marketing automation so we could actually have an email system that adapted to the things our users were actually doing. And we made the jump to at that time to Infusionsoft, which has now been renamed to Keep. And we kept running into both the automations not working correctly, as well as this sort of glass ceiling of deliverability, of email deliverability that we didn't honestly truly understand at the time.
Mm.
We weren't getting the feedback loops and we seemingly weren't getting the tools that we needed from Infusionsoft at the time to solve our own problem. And when I talked to our over 20,000 customers that were using contests, who all did email marketing and it was the most profitable channel they had. And, as you mentioned, all of the things like social is great for activity and acquisition, but then once you acquire them and becoming a lead, email is the most profitable thing you can do to take that lead and turn them into a customer, a repeat customer, and actually nurture a relationship. But all of those customers pretty much unanimously said, we don't know what a good deliverability rate is, but we know that we aren't there. So there was this like deep-seated feeling of my numbers don't seem to reflect what I think I should be at, but I also don't understand the unwritten rules of email that would even let me know what my numbers should be, let alone what tools, what processes, what strategies would get me there. So I took a couple $1 million of my own money, years of my life, and worked together with a very small team. And I just said, okay, if we're going to truly figure this out, let's start flipping over every stone. Let's uncover everything that we can possibly do. A lot of it's going to fail. Some of it's going to work. And as we find what works, if it's not something that is de facto included in an email service provider tool, but we find that it has material difference in our performance, let's build to include it. But let's not try to reinvent the wheel when it comes to, let's not try to build another landing page tool. Let's not try to build, every kitchen sink and faucet you can think of. Let's just build things that explicitly do one thing, which is take our email performance and maximize it. That's it. And as we went down that path, we quickly realized there's a lot of things that were essentially required to truly succeed with email that no other email service provider currently offered. Yeah. Things like your data integrity. Is your list clean? Is every email on there not only valid, but are they safe to send to? Have you de-risked it before you ever clicked send? Yeah. Almost no other ESP has that. Every single customer on our platform is doing our cleaning, right? Or has cleaning to an extremely high standard, right? So not only are they going to succeed, but then there's also usually every one of these features has a knock-on effect where not only improves you, but it improves your neighborhood, everyone you're sharing the infrastructure with. And as we implement each of these features, every single sender's quality and experience goes up, which actually compounds with every neighbor next to them doing the exact same thing. And so they all get better, right? And so we said, okay, well, that's going to be great for data integrity. What about, verification, authentication? What switches and knobs do we have to turn to make that really sing? Yeah. And we went down that rabbit hole. And now as a customer, it's simply, can you copy and paste these pieces, little strings of text? Great. Now you're fully compliant with everything that all, Gmail and Yahoo and Comcast all expect. So, when our customers hit the big Yahoo, Google change in early 2024, there was zero disruption and zero things that needed to be done because we had implemented every one of these no later than 2020. So 100% of our senders were fully compliant and on board with all the authentication stuff, right? Yeah. And then we know that deliverability is usually like a reflection of, that's the techie stuff to get right. Yeah. But it's usually a reflection of how high is your engagement and how low are your complaints. And so we just started going down the list of what functions and strategies and tools to enable those strategies can we implement to dramatically increase engagement and
Yeah.
dramatically reduce complaints. So we
Yeah.
have things like automatically expiring lead magnets, which have, an 8 times improvement, not 8%, an 8 times improvement on engagement for your new leads to get them to actually do something. That kind of that
Yeah.
that old meme, poke it with a stick, like do something, get the lead to sit up and sing or unsubscribe or something. Like you want them to
Yeah,
do something.
exactly. Yeah, this is what I love
Yeah.
about it. When I watch the reports, I actually get to see exactly where they come from too. And like, when you clean up the data, I've actually personally have never seen anything like it in any other platforms. And I've tried different things, and I think this is pretty important for most email marketers to know that it's actually safe, that they can use it without, kind of having all kind of nightmares and probably emails ending up in spam folders or people not opening, and then obviously getting blacklisted and that sort of stuff. And I think that's really super, super helpful. So why do you think that people should now, obviously we're entering 2025, why do you think the emphasis is so strong about email marketing? And, it's probably one of the oldest tools ever invented. If you can think about it, it's not nothing new, right? But people are slowly starting to understand the significance of it. And even like the newsletter, the moment I mention a word like newsletter, and obviously because I got this workshop coming up, I'm kind of heavily promoting it inside social. And I often, word it by saying, hey, anybody wants to learn how to sign up people through a newsletter? And everybody goes, oh my God, yeah, I've heard a lot about this newsletter thing. What does this newsletter thing do? How can we join and how we can learn? Why is it suddenly that everybody's starting to get so conscious about it? Is it because it's a trend, or is it because it's something that is just kind of silly but essential? I would love to hear your opinion about that.
Sure. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, email has sort of been the old faithful of the marketing stack the entire time. The difference isn't that email has suddenly come on strong. It's that people are realizing that other channels were sort of shiny object syndrome to a certain extent. And not that they aren't valuable, but you've had this huge volatility in the cheapness and effectiveness of reach on social, which was very cheap and very effective in the early days, and then the algorithm tweaks and it goes to basically zero, and then it tweaks again and it comes back, and people get excited about a new channel or a new network that's trying to get established, trying to get their footing, and trying to figure out the algorithm. Meanwhile, in the background, the thing that's actually turning out money in conversions has always been email. And what we're finding is that, well, yes, email is more difficult in 2025 than it was in, say, 2020. In 2020, it was more difficult than it was in 2015, right? As you take these snapshots, it has gotten more difficult because the volume of email globally has gone up. And so basically the gatekeepers, the Googles and the Yahoos and the Microsofts of the world,
Mm.
have increased the bar, the standard of what it takes to get in the inbox. But if you've been following the best practices the whole time, it hasn't mattered. What that's done is it's basically that increase of difficulty has increased the difficulty for the bad senders. So
Mm.
if you're sending what your list actually wants, you haven't really been that affected, right?
Yeah.
There's been a few more T's you got to cross, a few more I's you got to dot, but it hasn't changed that much. On the flip side, what have we seen for ad costs and algorithms? Algorithms have squashed reach quite a bit. Not saying that it doesn't work, but it is way harder than ever before. In fact,
Yeah.
you are better off having a single email subscriber than 1,000 likes on your Facebook page, for example.
Yeah.
And we've also seen that the ad costs on these networks, if you want to pay to play, have gone up dramatically. And in
Mm.
both of those cases, both of those events either have an extremely short shelf life in terms of the algorithm, or the second you stop paying for ads, your traffic and your whole business collapses. Whereas email, which again has been tried and true for a long period of time, has been this
Mm.
sort of like steady Eddie situation that you can constantly hit a button to. And there is a cost, right? Like email
Yeah.
service providers like Campaign Refinery are not free, but they are so low cost and provide such a high return that they might as well be free in comparison to, the lack of effectiveness for the algorithm and the extreme increasing costs of media buying. The fact that you can hit an inbox during the holidays and pay the exact same amount as the off-peak times of the year is wonderful. Whereas if you're reliant on ads, you get anywhere near Black Friday or the holidays,
Yeah.
and your ad rates could double, triple, quadruple X because
Mm.
you're competing with everybody else for the same amount of volume.
Yeah, that's very true. I often had clients coming to me and say, what do you think I should really invest my money on? Ads or emails? And of course, without a shadow of a doubt, I always say email, because emails, as you say, are way cheaper. But also, I find that, social media is very it's very crowded. So people, they hear all kind of noises. They don't pay much attention when they're reading a post on social, but they do pay attention when they read. Like, we are by nature readers. We still pick up a book and we still read. So, and I often write long content on emails, and lots of people say, hey, I think people are bored with long content. You should just do short content. And to be honest, I probably do a bit of both. But I find the long content really gets me the best buyers because I have an opportunity to talk about their insight and ideas and my philosophy. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what they buy. So for me, it's always like, don't spend money on ads, especially if your offer is not validated with emails. And I often use emails like a conversational piece rather than just kind of, flogging my offer 24/7, telling them to buy. I often ask them questions so they reply. So for me, it's always like, I have an offer, here it is, or, or I have a workshop, there's the link to the workshop. And, while you're waiting for the workshop, what else are you currently working on? I might have something else for you to give you, kind of thing. And I feel once they start to replying back to you, this is where the magic happens, because you have an opportunity really to capture them and talk about what's happening in their life rather than just posting, promotional stuff all day long. So what would you suggest to get the best results, I guess, when people start sending out an email a day? Mind you, is one email a day too much, or would you recommend one every couple of weeks or one every 2 days? And obviously the second question is, what will be the best kind of format for people to start using emails and why?
Sure. So there's a couple questions in there, so let's kind of break that apart. The first one really has to do, from what I'm hearing, is you're asking about cadence, frequency, that kind of thing. And there's sort of two parts even to that. So there is, from a deliverability perspective, what is ideal for the filters and the placement to trust you the most. And then there is, what does your audience expect and what can you consistently fulfill on? The answer to both of those will gauge how often you should send. So from a technical deliverability side, when you look at what allows you to inbox well, a big piece of that is that you're building a reputation, right? You heard me talk about that earlier. A part of that reputation is also predictability for the algorithm. So if Google knows that you always send, whether it's 200, 2,000, 2 million, whatever the number is, if you sent that yesterday and the day before and the day before that, and you always get a consistently high engagement rate, a consistently low complaint rate, and it seems like your content is warranted, the likelihood that your volume is going to inbox well on the next send goes up dramatically if it matches your previous patterns. So if you're going to email daily, that's great. Just be consistent with it as best that you can, because Google and Yahoo and Microsoft are all much more likely to A, let your email through faster, and B, give you better placement if the activity and volume is within a certain range of what you normally do, so they can predict with a high rate of confidence what to expect from the next email. Okay. So from the sort of software side, that is, consideration one. Consideration two is just like, copy. It's like, you think about a sales page copy. There's no such thing as copy that's too long. There's only copy that's too boring.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you're saying how often should I be sending to my list, the answer is probably more than you are right now. Whatever you're at, it's probably more than you are right now for most senders, because you want to get people that are uninterested off of your list. You want to have some good data points about who's not engaging so you can remove them off of your list. And for the people that are somewhat interested in what you're talking about, you want to be top of mind. You want to be re-entering the conversation. You want to be entering their shower thoughts, between your emails. And you do that usually through frequency and touch points, right? If you think about any sales process, it's not about being pushy. It's about being connected. It's about having a relationship, building rapport, demonstrating domain expertise, and doing all these things, which are much easier to, say, do snack-sized information every single day than writing War and Peace and sending them to them once a quarter, right? Because no one's going to read that.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, what kind of quick win can I get them? And can I also set the expectation early on about what my frequency is going to be? So if that's once a week, great. Try to stick to it. If it's daily, great. Try to stick to it. If it's every other week, but it's more in depth and more thought-provoking piece, set that expectation up front and fulfill on it. So that is the sort of the strategy component. And whatever the answer is to those two things, that will dictate your frequency.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. Like, for example, I will do one a day because, I just kind of reuse that content for social media, and it's usually like a clockwork. It's always the same time. It's almost like it's expected. If I sometimes forget, I'll literally get an email saying, hey, I haven't heard from you today. What's going on? Because it's become a bit of a habit. So every day, the same time, and then I just cut and repurpose the emails. This is something you mentioned about cleaning up your list, right? So how often would you recommend to clean your data?
Well, cleaning can sort of mean two different things depending on who you ask, and I think both portions of it are vital. So you have the is it valid and is it risky question, which is more of a data integrity and analysis kind of cleaning.
Hmm.
And so for that, for example, in our system, not only does it happen immediately upon a lead getting added before any emails are sent
Hmm.
preemptively, so that's check one.
Yeah.
But then if that contact remains subscribed, so they haven't clicked unsubscribe, you haven't had an automation rule to unsubscribe them due to lack of engagement or whatever, you actually want to programmatically recheck every 90 days. That is best practice.
Okay.
So you want it because you do have list decay every single month because literally people die sometimes, or they
Hmm.
abandon their email address,
Yeah.
or they go on a super long vacation and it gets things wacky with their algorithm. Basically, if people abandon an email address, you want to programmatically know that. Now, the second component of quote cleaning has to do with really segmentation. And segmentation is focusing on recency of engagement. So
Mm.
even if it's valid and even if it's safe, are they engaged?
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that you're purging people that are not actively and consistently engaging with your emails because the little sneaky thing is Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo, they see people who aren't reading your emails to be just as bad as you buying a list off of Fiverr eventually and sending it to them.
Right.
You have this like toxic ticking time bomb sitting in your list because what happens is you watch your engagement rates erode and
Hmm.
erode, and then all of a sudden Google goes, your open rate is 15%. Slap on the hand, it went to 1%
Right.
because you
Yeah.
aren't being a good steward of your list. And a significant portion of your email list that you are sending to on a consistent basis are telling us they don't care because they're not opening and clicking. Therefore, what you're sending is not relevant to the recipients that you're telling us you want to send to, and we're going to punish you as a result. So, if you are programmatically checking and rechecking on a regular basis every 90 days, the second component is you want to have segmentation rules that are only sending people who have opened within a certain recency window. So a good sort of starting base for people is like 30-day openers. If someone has not opened an email, especially if you're sending daily, if someone has not opened an email in more than 30 days,
Yeah.
you do not want to be sending them email. And you may even want to tighten it closer than that, right?
Yeah.
And you want to kind of play with that number so that you can hit a healthy threshold of an average unique open rate. And I say unique with emphasis there because
Right.
unique opens and total opens are different things, but unique people that are opening, you want to make sure you stay well above 30%. Our best senders float between 45 and 60%
Wow.
unique open rate at scale. I'm talking 50, 60, 70 million emails a month, and they're still hitting that kind of unique open rate engagement
Mm.
because they're using all these tools to their advantage.
Yeah.
And by hemming all of that in, their domain reputation goes up, placement goes up, profits
Yeah.
go up, and actually costs go down because they're lowering their volume to the dead weight.
Right.
It's a
That's it.
beautiful combo.
Oh no, it sounds like poetry. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then tell me if I miss something that is really relevant. So I do, as I say, I do 2 workshops a month, and the reason why I love emails is because I literally sell out every single month. So after the 2 workshops that we do, we invite people inside one of my mentorship programs, and I tend to only open 10 spots every month. I don't really like taking, hundreds of people in one go because you can imagine me, I have to actually spend at least an hour with every single person, go through the offer, making sure their offer is validated, and then we kind of bring them into, step 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's usually like a 16-week intensive program, and then, they can choose to stay or leave or move up to the next year, whatever they want to do. So for that, I am forever grateful because I do use emails. And I have a tendency of taking things away from people. I am not really in a kind of my energy is kind of a bit funky if I chase people and ask them whether they want to work with me or not. So I think it's the maybes that kill you, not so much the no's. I prefer to hear the no or a yes, but the maybe it's kind of driving me a bit, bonkers. So I tend to take things away from them, meaning once the 10 spots are taken, they're gone. And then they can go on what we call a reservation list, meaning I might have a couple of people dropping out, or I might announce that I have some new spots opening for the next couple of weeks. And I notice you have something that we call like a clock ticking away, where, you go sign up now, or things will be taken away from you, or the price will be double. I know it's a bit of a FOMO, but it tends to work really well. Elaborate about that a little bit and how you actually use it inside Campaign Refinery, maybe even for yourself, or maybe you heard some great success stories for some of your current clients.
Yeah, of course. So this is what you're referring to is basically, we call it the lead magnet multiplier.
Right.
Sort of the branded term that we use for it. And it's a way to really spark consumption on our lead magnet specifically, which is one component of a layered of gamification features that we have. But we'll focus in on this one for now. So we know that scarcity and urgency are very powerful levers to get people to actually do something. And the really funny thing that I noticed, but both from the contest days and from when I look at lead magnets, is you can often see a pretty healthy open rate, but a really low true consumption rate. And what I mean is how many people actually look at the freaking thing that they just told you they wanted. And you would think that there'd be massive congruency here because they end up on a landing page or they see a Lightbox opt-in and they give you a valuable piece of information, how to contact them and say, yes, they raise their hand, I would like this thing. And then almost no one actually reads it. Okay? Which is crazy because in their mind, this is a really funny thing about the way that sales work, because you're selling it, even though it's free, you're selling it. People think that when they buy, that the thing is already, like, the outcome has already been achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also true on the lead magnets. So we looked at some of the world's best copywriters, are really compelling, like, hey, I really refined this lead magnet flow, and I've worked on the copy, and I've made it super valuable, and I've made the lead magnet itself that I'm delivering super valuable. They're still only seeing about a 50% open rate and a 3 to 5% click to open rate, which means 1.5 to maybe 3% of every email they send to someone who just raised their hand actually consumes the thing that they're sending them. Crazy low, right? And if you think about that number, it's actually not too dissimilar from paid courses. Paid courses have about a 3% completion rate.
Correct.
Think about it. People are paying money to get into your membership and then they don't complete it. What the hell's going on here, right? So we're like, okay, how do we make an average person absolutely destroy these numbers through psychology? And also get the deliverability benefits, because we know that's the sort of best that a decently well-trained copywriter can do. So average person's probably even less, right? We juice these numbers because we know that open rate and click rate are some of the leading indicators in your domain reputation and your future deliverability. And this is the first interaction you have with this new lead. Okay, so we basically built this little piece of technology into Campaign Refinery that makes it so that we can deliver the lead magnet that we promised, but if they do not click, and in our case, we use 10 minutes. So if they don't click within 10 minutes, we're going to retroactively remove access to the lead magnet. We communicate this on the thank you page, we communicate it in the initial email. And we have a good reason why. So like they hit the thank you page, they just opted in, great. And it's like, hey, if you got to go click this link in the next 10 minutes, there's a countdown timer on that page. You can use any countdown timer you want. Just make sure it's an evergreen 10-minute countdown timer, doesn't matter. We show them a screenshot of the email they need to go find. And we say, yeah, it's so valuable that we're only giving it away for free to people that are action takers. So you've now set the bar. And importantly, you've reset the, hey, I've already completed the thing, to no, I have not completed it. Yeah. I've reset the counter. I have more tasks to do. I must ignore the 300 open Chrome tabs that look like Pez candy dispensers. And instead, I must now go to my inbox, which may have hundreds of unread emails. And I must look for the email from Travis that has my thing in it. So what's Google doing? They're saying, hey, we know all those unread emails. And they chose, out of all the available emails they could have read, they chose my email to immediately open and immediately click. Because if they don't, we change the link to remove access and it goes to, hey, you didn't click, too bad. You can request a copy from support if you need to, but we reward action takers. So here's what happens with the stats, right? I told you before, you're only getting 1 to 3% of people who opt in to actually click with a standard funnel. Adding this little piece of scarcity, which is I mean, it's like a sub 15-minute task to add it using Campaign Refinery, at least.
Mm.
Adding this, all of a sudden the open rate goes from 50% to 75,
Wow.
and the click rate goes from 3 or 5% to 80%. So suddenly,
Mm.
instead of 1 to 3% of all emails we send getting clicked,
Yeah.
we're getting 60, 70 plus percent of every email we send getting clicked in under 10 minutes. And the remaining portion that don't click, that missed, that click after 10 minutes, guess what they do? They hit reply and they say, shoot, I'm so sorry I missed this. Can you please, please, please make an exception and send me a copy of the lead magnet? Which
Yeah.
again, boosts that deliverability cycle, gets them to understand that when you say something, you mean it, and they have to like basically ask for forgiveness for you to fulfill on it. And these have a lot of marketing psychology, but importantly, really strong levers towards your deliverability, and they really set the bar for you on emails 2, 3, and 4. And you can actually sometimes see your performance go up as your sequence goes on with the other gamification features,
Yeah.
whereas everyone else sees their numbers, crash. And it's hugely beneficial for getting people to like actually pay attention, actually consume the lead magnet. And if this is sitting in front of, let's say, book a call funnel or another sales step, you know that they've at least visually seen it. Even if they didn't read all of it, you've gotten them in front of the piece of content you need them to look at, whether you're linking to a video or a PDF or whatever. They actually did something. They clicked it. They looked at it at least once, which is much further along than 97
Yeah.
or more percent of everyone else.
It's fascinating. Like, I'm just fascinated about the human behavior, why people behave the certain way they do. And so I do take things away from them, like the workshop. Once they click onto the workshop, and if it's over, it's gone. But I want to use the emails scarcity the same way, because I think it's really going to skyrocket the reach and people actually taking, some kind of action. Even low, like this is quite, it's not strange. It's probably very common to most of us when we do those kind of things. Even when people put their hands up and they say, yes, I want to attend the workshop, and I give them the link to the workshop, 95% of the time they will not click and purchase. So I need to go back and remind them that, hey, this will be taken away in the next 48 hours. Take it now or it's gone. Or even to the extent when people say to me, I'm in, meaning they're in and they want to join some of my mentorship. When I say, well, there's the link to join, they still don't join. And somehow in their head, they think they're in, but they're not physically in. So we have to remind them again that, hey, in order for you to participate, you need to click on that link and see you on the other side. But the email ones is spectacular. So I definitely will probably be using that a bit more, and I'll be able to report back and see how that's working. Anything else that I missed out that I think it's important for our viewers to know and understand about Campaign Refinery, I guess, in general, compared to any other tools that I might be using at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is whether you use Campaign Refiner or not, you need to find a way to control your data integrity by making sure that your list is actually as clean as you think it should be. Because I can tell you right now, if you're not doing a actual programmatic cleaner, it is not as clean as you think it should be, and it's not as clean as it needs to be an elite level sender. People need to often send more often and send more interesting emails outside of their comfort zone. So whatever your comfort zone is, do that +1.
Yeah.
Right? As a start. And the third component is you need to be judicious in the way that you segment your audience, because the idea of, oh, I've got this big list, it's a big asset, but I don't really want to pester people. A big list that you don't send to or a big list of people that don't open is not an asset, it is a liability. So unless you are actively pruning down your list to people who have recently engaged and you're giving them a good reason to engage by sending them compelling content on at least a semi-regular basis, and you're pre-cleaning with the programmatic option, and then you're on good infrastructure with good neighbors and so on and so forth, those things really compound to deliver the best possible experience. And if you go look at any of the publicly available data about average ROI per channel of any social media channel, of an email channel, whatever, I mean, you would be incredibly unwise to not take email both seriously and invest in your strategy and invest in a good platform that can give you a healthy tech stack so that you can milk that really high ROI as far as it will go, right? So that you can leverage that asset to its maximum potential. And that's one thing that I think that we've done a better job than most at. But we have some additional tools and stuff rolling out very, very soon that even if the idea of wholesale switching platforms sounds like nightmare fuel, you can get some of the benefits that we've discussed today, even if you don't do a wholesale switch. So like our cleaning is about to be publicly available outside of our sandbox, and some of the scarcity items as well. So
Yeah.
just something to consider. If you can't make a wholesale switch, it's kind of like the imperfect diet you stick to is better than the perfect diet you never actually do. Just do
True.
something along the lines of what we talked about today and
Yeah.
see the forward progress, and then iterate and add the next one and add the next one until you can
Yeah.
complete the
Well,
whole picture.
all right. Well, I'm really looking forward to the workshop next week because I think it's going to give a lot of people awareness. They don't know what they don't know. That's, that I always find that a very good way of thinking because they assume that what they're currently doing is the best possible way. But then, the reality is probably a shortcut or is a better way to do certain things. And I've been doing this for God knows how many years, probably about 12 years online. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, about 90% of people that have come across in any of my mentorship, I would say 90% of people don't have a database, an email database. They kind of just, they just hope for something to stick and they just go, I'm just going to post content. And then the worst thing of that is that the content might not be even relevant for the audience. They kind of go, nothing is working, nothing is sticking, content is not working, social is not working, emails is not working, nothing is working. And then they probably go off and try something completely random that is just going to make the situation way worse. Yeah, I think emails is probably something that they should really focus on at the end of the day. Social media content is just the basic stuff, and then everything else that goes with it, it's a complementary journey, and emails is definitely one, and the newsletter. I mean, we call it a newsletter, but at the end of the day, it's really like a trigger of emails that they receive the moment they sign up to the newsletter. There's obviously a reason why they give you the email addresses. Obviously, they have a problem and they want some kind of a solution. So the moment they enter the newsletter, I just don't wait. I just kind of go straight into like some kind of a soft pitch and then give them something of value. And then I'll eventually just close them through the whole series of emails. So that alone, it just kind of makes life easier for a lot of people. As you say, they don't even have to be there. They could be somewhere else and they're still generating some kind of revenue just from a simple setup of their email sequences. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. I think you gave a few of our members a bit of an aha moment about how serious this stuff is and how we can actually implement it. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It could just be like, a simple two emails a week or three emails a week, as you say, just be consistent with it and just provide some kind of insight. I don't tend to do a lot of value. I think value kind of just attracts a lot of wannabes and freebie seekers. I find that the insights and ideas what really gets people interested. I'm a great believer people buy coaches, they don't buy coaching, they don't buy templates and modules, they don't buy courses. Eventually people buy you for who you are and what you stand for and what's your philosophy. So that pretty much can be interpreted inside your email sequences quite effectively.
Yeah, well, like the old CEO of Black and Decker used to always say, we don't sell drills, we sell holes. So
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure you're helping them get the hole, not the drill.
That's very true indeed. Well, thank you, Travis. I really appreciate it for your time. And is there something that I should give to my readers or audience about your what it is that you do and how you help folks? Maybe just send me some links that I can forward it to them, and they will be part, obviously, of our promotion next week with a 10-minute email a day.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious thing is we do have a lead magnet called the Inbox Formula, which covers a lot of the both technical and strategy pieces. And when you opt in for that, you get to see the expiring lead magnet flow. So you get 2-for-1 extra value. So I'll give you a
That's
link for that
awesome.
you can share.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time again, Travis. Take care.
Yeah, my pleasure.